Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, as you said, I'm Brother Anam. I think before I go right into the university struggles, I don't think that's the way to start this, because all of us on our journeys, we carry some sort of baggage, some sort of value system, like where we've come from, where we've been. So I'm actually going to start with my childhood, inshallah, if that's not a problem. Because to lead towards the problems and the sort of way my mind was structured in, I need to take it way back. So I'm going to take you back to Edmonton, North London. That's where I grew up, in a little place called Park Close. And I think life was quite fast for me then. So I don't know if you guys remember what like Freddo's was still 10p at the time, by the way. So it was a different time. And so I grew up in this neighborhood. I think I was one of only 2 Asian families there. It was quite a multicultural neighborhood. It was a block, almost like an estate. And but it was filled with laughter. This is when everyone was still active. So like summer times was mad. Like it wasn't just your home. There was about 15 homes that like their doors were open and you could go into any which one. So that was the world I came from. And the essence of what I learned in my childhood, I remember my mom sent me to weekend madrasa. It was difficult for me at the time because I was being scouted for football, and then my mom just went, nah, weekend madrasa, and I was like, okay. But I remember the hadith after one tajweed class of love for your brother what you love for yourself. And I think my childhood allowed me to really understand that concept, because we came from nothing, absolutely nothing. To us, a pound was £100, and the neighborhood kids and I, it was like if one of us had a pound, we all went to the shop together, and we you knew how to stretch a pound in it. Like it was a beautiful thing. And so yeah, that's effectively what I came from. And it was it was a strange one, because it was like, I forgot what the term was, but it was sort of council housing. And but it was some of the most love I've experienced in my life, in the way you shared. Like I remember there was this really poor family, and they used to always, like, you felt bad for them, because like our cultures, like our background, just like no matter how much you're struggling, your mum finds a way to make the maddest munch, right? Like through their own stress and stuff, they'll make sure your nutrition is on point. But this brother, he didn't have that. Like he had microwave chips way too often. Microwave, not even like microwave chips. But he'd share it every time. I'm not gonna lie, they tasted dead, but they tasted delicious at the same time. It was like, without fail, if he made it, he would come out his door and just stand there. And it was a different kind of thing. And I remember him strongly, and we were kind of rascals. There was a few different age groups, and but it wasn't all like roses and happiness and stuff. Like it was a time when you still had some of the skinhead culture. So there was this older group of guys who were like skinhead, like really racist type of people. And my family had it hard. Like we could have our window bricked and stuff, and like we could hold it up at our own age. So I could conduct myself in a way where people respected my own age. But these guys were like, I'm like 6, 7, and these guys were like in their teenage years, like 17, 16, like yob culture, like proper old school yob culture. And so I remember one time we had like a special occasion. I'm not sure if it was Eid or like a family wedding or something, but we were all dressed up. My mum's in her sari, my dad's in suit, and we're like going in the car. And that gang of guys were there, and they were booting our car. Literally, as you're trying to drive out, they're booting the car, slapping it, threatening my mum. And it's interesting because I come from a really like quite a broken family. Like it's a dysfunctional family, and there was a lot of problems inside. And I think this moment is quite interesting because so they're doing this, and then my dad has enough. My dad's thinking, I've got my little like three children. It's me, my older brother, and my younger brother at the time, and obviously his wife, my mum. So he comes out. My dad owned a restaurant, so he went into the back, and I knew he had this big knife, but he restrained himself, obviously, and he picked up a big spoon instead, and he chased like these group of guys. And then when they clocked it was a spoon, obviously, like they turned back, like, yo, what's this guy doing? And not gonna lie, punched my dad up. And I remember going back into the house, and it's weird because for me it's one of my happy memories, and I know that's mad to say, but it was one of the few times I remember proper affection between my parents. And my mum was tending to his like nose. His nose is gone, like he was with Khabib in the cage or something. So he was completely gone. But it was like one of those moments of affection, and yeah, it was always a childhood of trying to help, even though you have nothing. I just have stories on stories regarding the childhood, to be honest. I remember one time in primary school, right? We had to bring in a flower for some reason. It was like a biology type class. So you had to bring in flowers. I think I always had an inclination that, oh, my family is struggling. And I didn't ask my mum. But then on the day I was walking to like school, I was like, oh, I need to get some flowers, like, otherwise I'm gonna get in bare trouble. I was like, cool. And then, so I was looking around the neighborhood and I saw this garden that had bare flowers. I was like, yes. Cool. And then I was trying to be sneaky about it, and I saw some nice tulips. I was like, okay, I got this. And then I was like, my friends from the neighborhood, we went to the same school, and I thought, oh, he might struggle as well because I know their dynamics and stuff. So I went and took a couple different flowers, like a dandelion here and this and that here, and I brought it all into school. I'm thinking the teacher might like, now I think in hindsight, the teacher must have looked at these like flowers clearly ripped from the ground, like everyone, and then everyone else had proper flowers in it. Like families went in, like they had their bouquets and stuff, and I was like, oh damn, okay, cool, I'm gonna play it cool. And then I just kind of put it besides it, and then the next thing I knew is because I did it thinking I'm gonna help out my friends, so I just had these stack of flowers, and the next thing I knew is that there were bare bugs in there. And they mashed up all the other flowers in it. So that was me trying to love for bro. Like I was trying to do it for my friend Anwar, like, and one of my other friends. And yeah, I mashed up the whole thing. And it was always like this grandiose idea that I'm gonna really help my brothers out, and it always like fell on its face in some way or another. Another example is we had like a summer fete in primary school, and so they were giving out X-Men cards for free. So like these packs of like X-Men cards. And I was never one to be like really, I didn't have much self-pity. I'd always try my best to like live within my means effectively, even as a child. And so I saw this as an opportunity in it. Like my Richard Branson just started like inside me, just bubbling up. I was like, okay, business opportunity. And then I know we got some ballers in the class, and I was like, I took bare of them. I literally like, you know how everyone's taking all the tissues now? That was me with those X-Men packs. I was like, cool. Like I took most of them, and then I started rationing it out, selling it. I think a couple pounds per pack. I think I made 13 quid. That is baller money for a year 3 student. Not gonna lie, like I thought I made it. Like I was ready to free the ends and help everyone out. And yeah, I think my nature with that whole thing was, okay, now I can help the neighborhood. And I remember we were all like, I started giving the packs out to some of my close friends, and like the ones that I knew were trying to hustle and stuff themselves. And yeah, we effectively tried helping each other. I'm not telling anyone to like bump anyone, by the way. This is childhood stupidity, trying to be good to your friends. But the reason I'm bringing up these childhood stories, and there's many. So we had these caretakers in the neighborhood, for example, and they put on this treasure hunt. and they had clues all over our neighborhood. It was like a kingdom for children. Like there was mazes, and it was like you had the shortcuts in the bushes and the gates and all of this stuff, and only you knew it. And I remember me and my friends, we worked together to get it, and then when we got the prize, I remember we just shared it amongst everyone, and that was the nature. And no matter what it was always, okay, here, this is your piece, here, this is your piece, this is your piece. But as we were growing up, we took different paths and stuff. And the majority of my childhood friends are not here today. And yeah, so like it had me reflecting a lot, because then you kind of go through the teenage years, and in all honesty, I was moving from school to school. I was someone that was considered, alhamdulillah, a bright child academically, but like I was always distracted. I think when you come from a broken home, you're always looking for a form of escapism, and this dunya has too many options in terms of short-term escapisms. It never fulfills you, and yeah, so throughout the teenage years, it was effectively that, just constantly finding short-term escapisms, and a lot of my friends along the way fell through these pitfalls. One of them sent back to Somalia. His mum was worried about the direction he's taken here, and he was shot there and died. And then another friend, he was in the wrong environment and he died, and suspiciously, like people presume he's been murdered. But these moments, I took them as reminders about what path I'm taking and who I want to be around, and who will remember me, who's going to make dua for me, like what lifestyle am I living right now. And it scared me. It scared me so much that this friend of mine, everyone around him didn't even know how to conduct a janaza. Like they didn't know what a janaza was. They didn't even know how to dress. They didn't know what du'as. And I was like, that's crazy. And inshallah, that situation has brought his family closer to Allah, and he's forgiven. But it had me reflecting a lot. And one of them, he reverted, but then there was some situations in his life and he took his own life. And so by the time I had come to university, I had a big void in my life. I knew I didn't want to do anything in terms of like the culture of university, so I wasn't interested in the drinking culture or the parties or anything like this. But at the same time, I hadn't filled that void. So growing up, I was quite competitive. I think my name means winner in Bengali or something. And if I wasn't, so there's these three things. So it's a psychological, like you do psychology, bro? Mm-hmm. Well, I'm trying to remember which brother did. But so effectively, in terms of the emotional state and how we deal with things, we have three primary things. We have the drive factor, the threat factor, and the soothe factor. And many people that have suffered with mental health issues are usually either in drive or they're in threats, and they don't interact with soothe enough. Islam gives many tools for this, like soothe, which I'll go on to later on in the talk, inshallah. But I was primarily driven by drive. Like that's what I was. Like I'd be in the football tournaments, and it would be like, even if I've scored 2 goals in this final, I remember, but I missed this particular chance, and I thought, like I remember I was really harsh on myself. Like your own inner critic, there's an inner critic inside you, and mine is very strong. Like I'll never show it on the surface, but in regards to myself, it's like stupidly strong. Like the inner critic within myself is no matter what I do, I'll always think to myself, oh, you could have done this better, or you could have improved upon this. And a great example is Tyson Fury. Like even when he won it all in terms of this dunya, in terms of the career path he took, it didn't give him satisfaction. Like it was something he worked towards his whole life. He got it, and it just didn't fill him. And nothing on that scale for me, but in terms of a lot of my things, whether it's academic, because of the culture I come from, success is very relative to the grade you're getting a lot of the time. And then athletically, that applied as well. And pretty much in every facet of my life, I would always aim to win, but almost even if I won or performed really well, after it I almost feel nothing. It's almost like, okay, like back to the void. And the reason I wanted to bring up aspects of my childhood is that so my value system, I think it's connection. So one of the things I wanted, like I value is connection, and I miss those bonds with those people, and that raw, genuine, authentic brotherhood. I moved from school to school, so you saw all sorts of different environments, and so whilst most people stayed in secondary school their whole life, I've been in so many, so you kind of start again and you start again and you start again. And it was the same for like, I moved from one side of Edmonton to the other, and there was a war zone at the time, so you just kind of see, so like you've seen a lot. And so when I came to university, I missed that connection with a lot of people. And the other thing I missed was you guys should always say mashallah after everything, but like ban nazar, but evil eye, and that, because a lot of the times people used to say, Anam, you're so strong, Anam, you're so strong. Like I used to, like when it was that messy part of that life, I was hard on the roads and backed every beef. I mean, from Hackney to Wood Green to Edmonton to Tottenham, it was active, and all the time it was, Anam, you're so strong, or Anam, you're so smart, and all of this other stuff throughout my life. Allah took it all away. Like I've got like a health condition now, neck to feet. I feel like my pain sensors are like constantly going off as if I'm in pain, but I'm actually not in pain. And alhamdulillah, it's a good thing for me. It grounded me, it increased me in humility, it increased me in patience, in sabr, and many other aspects. But it took me a while to get to that realization. Of course I was missing it. I was missing football, I was missing training and boxing, I was missing being active with my friends and stuff. So I've come to university now, and like I'm skipping over some stuff because it was so crazy that I was even married in my teenage years. I have 2 children, and I question myself, like, what are my reasons for getting married? And we all know how disliked divorce is, and that's the situation I fell under. But it's not just that. The person we married is like the teacher to your children, and I was so caught up in the wrong world, and that person left Islam, and my children are in an environment so that would break your heart as their father. So I was carrying a lot of guilt, a lot of remorse, and I was in this university. I've started in this university, and interestingly enough, I didn't make too much complaint. I didn't have self-pity. That's the one thing I don't think I had, but I was definitely struggling. I had anxiety, I had levels of depression. Like the way I'd connect with certain people, when I was in my room, curtains closed, lights off, just zoning. And in terms of the way to deal with it, it was a process. But one brother I met, I think, let me just move over. Yeah. So I think the concept of ummah helps a lot, and good companionship. And so one brother I want to focus on, I'm going to focus on particular brothers that I've met at this university who wouldn't even know how much of an important impact they've had on me, because they're used to seeing me smiling. I'm not gonna lie, like I'm smiling and laughing pretty much all the time. And I think compassion has helped save me, alhamdulillah. My instincts, based on knowing what it's like to feel empty or feel nothing, is to reach out to others when I see someone else is feeling down and whatnot. So when I started this university, our ISOC was not much of an ISOC. We wasn't even at the Freshers Fair. We had about 3 to 4 members when we first started. The ISOC. We just missed like the golden generation. Abdul Rahim Green's son and those band of brothers, Omar Hajjaj and all these others had left, and the brothers that took it on kind of begrudgingly, because they had a lot on their own plate, and they were struggling to manage the academia as well as being productive in the ISOC. May Allah accept their efforts. And so Hamid and I was in our first year, and we looked around, and he said to me, Anam, you're so social. And I was like, am I? He's like, yeah. Like he goes, you always find a way to draw people in. And I disagreed. But he asked me, because I think there's a lot of amazing brothers here, mashallah. I'm not gonna lie. Brothers that have ilm, they have taqwa, they have hikmah, but they don't want to share it with anyone, if I'm being honest. University kind of brings out this selfishness in us. It's like, this is what I want to do for myself. And the way our university is structured, you're kind of in your own small bubbles. And you're kind of minding your own business. And it goes against our concept of unity and brotherhood, if I'm being honest. And Hamid, mashallah, he just refused to accept that. And he said to me, Anam, we got to do something. Sincerely, we got to do something. Whether people hear us or not, it doesn't matter. We're not here for applause or anything like this, but we need to start something. He goes, it's not right. Like, it was so bad that people were joining other societies thinking it's the Islamic society. Like, it was honestly that bad. And Hamid said, like, that's upon us. We're here. This is a part of our responsibility. And this is a place, some people find deen here. Many lose it. And he said he doesn't want to be accountable for that. And he said, Anam, you've got many qualities I don't have. And I said, you've got many qualities. And I said, Hamid, you've got many qualities I don't have. He was steadfast upon deen, mashallah. And the one thing I learned from him is his willingness to structure his life around ibadah. I was depressed. He didn't really know this. I was in my own world. Like, I've got people dying left, right, and center. I'm in a home where I'm hearing loved ones talking about not wanting to live, not wanting to and talking about how everyone hates them, people you dearly care about, and you're just constantly facing demons left, right, and center. And but I'd spend a lot of time with Hamid. And I remember I was on a train with him, and he was like, Anam, it's prayer time. And I was like, oh yeah, we should pray like when we get off at this stop. And then by the time I got to finish my sentence, I saw him put his jacket down. He found a little corner, he's praying. And because it was already late. And then when we used to study together, he used to talk about the blessing of salat. He's like, oh Anam, it's so amazing, like it breaks our day up for us. He's like, okay, we can study here, do this, then we can work on this entrepreneurial idea. That's the sort of energy he carried, mashallah. In fact, most of his assignments, if you saw, like, a lot of us carry a level of shame or a level of like, we're embarrassed in the way, like, to carry our deen. It's for some people it's not a cool thing or a popular thing to, like, embody, and which is a very sad thing, because I think the thing that draws most people towards Islam is good character. And I saw this in Hamid, and yeah, so it does take me to this hadith. Aisha radiallahu anha narrated that Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, said, whoever is in regular with 12 rak'at of sunnah, Allah will build a house for him in paradise. 4 rak'at before Zuhr, 2 rak'at after it, 2 rak'at after Maghrib, 2 rak'at after Isha, and 2 rak'at before Fajr. And when I was around Hamid, I understood that, and that was one aspect that helped me, having the structure of Salah and Ibadah. Another brother that I want to speak on is Brother Abdul Qadir. I hope he doesn't mind. So Abdul Qadir was an interesting one. It wasn't all roses. He's a tough brother because he's so sincere, mashallah, in the way he wanted to help. So he's first year. So this is like years after. So me and Hamid have gone from this 4 members. I think we ended up having hundreds, alhamdulillah. And we did lots of events in terms of charity. We worked on things like, we had bugs on these carpets, for example. And it was really tough, and inshallah I'm going to renew my intention, because this is not to, there's nothing boastful about it, but it's tough. It's tough because our ISOC is, the committee itself is very small, and you feel the weight on your shoulders. Like, you want to keep things sincere, and at the same time, when you're trying to keep it sincere, you've got a lot of critics. There's always someone telling you what you're doing wrong and how you can improve. And a lot of the brothers didn't see when the ISOC was at 4 members and it was on the verge of disbanding and there was no one to take it on. So they would look at the efforts, and like, regardless of what was achieved, we'd hear a lot of hardships. And some people did it from sincerity and some people did it because nothing's ever enough. I believe Abdul Qadir is of the latter. Like, there was a level of sincerity in Anam, like, we can do more. Like, okay, you guys are doing this, but what? And I could already see that he already had the sense that like he wants to do something as well. And but the thing is the thing I want to highlight about Abdul Qadir, in my time with him, and these things really did help structure my process of dealing with anxiety. By the way, if anyone's got anxiety or depression or they're going through some stuff, we have an amazing welfare system here, and you should always seek professional help if possible, Islamically as well as academically. And so when I was with Abdul Qadir, if I was in his car, he'd be like, Anam, do you mind, I just usually play a CD of Adkar here, and no matter where we went, if we were going to Kingston, if we were going to Hammersmith or Fulham or wherever it was, if it was further out, he would always say to me, oh Anam, let's do something to remember Allah, remembrance of Allah. And he just drilled it into me, the concept of dhikr, like a reminder. These things were constant reminders because I've been drawn away from it for so long. So now I've got the concept of ibadah from being in the companionship of Hamid, and now I'm getting the beauty of dhikr. And sometimes it can also give you humility. So I thought I was sick at table tennis, right? I thought I was the man when it came to ping pong. And certain man humbled me. I'm not going to name, no, it was Abdul Qadir, innit? Mashallah. I'm not going to lie, he does all that, you know, it's fatty, yeah? Bro, he does all of this, you know them techers, where he moves with it, and he's spinning, and you're just okay, this is some anime effects or something, because there's something going wrong here. Mashallah. And let me have a little look. So yeah, it reminds me of this. Abu Hurairah also reported that the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, he who says Subhanallahi wa bihamdi, glory and praise be to Allah, 100 times a day, his sins will be obliterated even if they're equal to the extent of the foam of the sea. I think he actually said that to me in my room one time. And yeah, so companionship is a powerful thing, and surrounding yourself with goodness There's one brother I've not mentioned here, but I remember brother Yunus. Do you remember brother Yunus? MashaAllah. I swear, like, he said to me, Anam, no matter what, whenever you see a Muslim brother, say Assalamu alaikum. And like, he used to be disheartened when he never heard a response. But he'd always, the next brother he saw, he would say Assalamu alaikum. Without fail. Without fail. And everywhere he went. I remember we tried doing an event. So we did Charity Week at this ISOC. And we went to an international dinner in Glasgow to represent Roehampton. And he came with me. And once again, it gives you this concept of brotherhood. It was expensive, the tickets. And all the brothers chipped in. And then we went together like 11 hours on the coach at night. And I didn't make it known my condition and stuff. But it was hard. My body was hurting. But alhamdulillah, I remember like there was this brother that was like doing the tickets there. And then Yunus thought, oh, he's like, Anam, is that guy Muslim? I was like, I think so. It's like, Assalamu alaikum. And the guy responded with a smile, wa alaikum salam, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And then Yunus just turned to me with a smile. He's like, bro, my heart. And then I just think, and then so it's just the concept of small, consistent deeds is something I've learned from Yunus. And another brother I want to speak about is OS. MashaAllah. Now this brother, he's adamant that he's not practicing. And he says, Anam, like, I shouldn't be in this environment. I don't belong amongst practicing Muslims. I hope he doesn't mind me saying this. But he had all of these insecurities. He's from abroad. He's from Lahore in Pakistan. And MashaAllah, he's got a beautiful family there. And if anyone knows about like Pakistani culture, they adhere to the value of family, the obedience of parents, and other aspects. And he was cut off from that. And he's always trying to big me up, but he never hears like what he actually did for me. Because once again, I'm very quiet about my mental health. I don't really bring it up if I'm dealing with severe anxiety or depression and all these other things, and like the things I've faced and losing people. Like, these things are not, they won't come up in my casual convo. I'd probably just drop some pants and get on with my day. Now, I met him at Friday prayers on campus, and similar to me, you wouldn't know he has anything going on in his life. Anything. He would pray his salah, and then you'd always notice that he'd stay longer. He had, and you'd almost wonder why. He'd always stay. He'd always be the last one, so you'd always have a small conversation with him. Like, he had this suave attitude about him. You kind of think he's from America. He has this like accent, and he has like these cool like bomber jackets and stuff. And he just kind of plays it cool. He's just your cool, collected sort of guy. And then one time he invited me into his flat, and I said yeah. And then I saw all the telltale signs of someone that's suffering from depression. It was like there was a sort of a smell. The curtains were closed in the day. He had snacks everywhere. You can tell he was emotionally eating. And so I thought to myself, I'm gonna ask, like, we were dropping banter and we were just speaking, and then I asked him, like, are you okay, bro? Like, what's going on? Like, is there anything you're struggling with? And he just said, yeah, I am. I'm not with my family. I don't understand the culture here. I don't understand how to even do my university work. And he said so much more. And he has a little brother, mashallah, with a Down syndrome who absolutely adores him. And those two are inseparable. And he was struggling because he knew his brother was missing him, and he was missing his brother. Like it was difficult. And I thought to myself, I was struggling myself at the time, but I couldn't ignore this. And I said to him, I'll come to my room. Alhamdulillah, I'm okay academically. I can show you some of my papers in which I got first. You can go through it. And then I think we were there till basically Fajr almost, breaking down, referencing, citing how to find quality resources, all of this stuff. He just didn't know how the system worked. And I remember because he showed me his work, and I was like, bro, you might potentially fail with this. He's like, why? I'm like, I can see this is all copy and pasted. I was like, if you understand how the algorithms work, they'll catch you. And he's like, is it? And then I was like, cool, let's go to my room. And then I remember I printed off some of my papers, I gave it, we did the thing. And then so to this day, he goes around saying how amazing I am. I think anyone would do that in the scenario, seeing someone struggling. But what he didn't realize is what he did for me. And it was a reminder of al-istiyana and tawakkul. He used to pretty much cry to Allah. He used to turn to Allah. So he's saying he's not practicing, but when it came to his hardships and his struggles, he was always the one making the most dua. And then I remember we was walking back, because I lived in Mount Clair. Anyone know Mount Clair?
Yeah.
Beautiful place. That's depression in itself. But, so we were walking back from Mount Clair to Southlands, and he said to me, Anam, I was making dua. He goes, I was making dua like that. Allah shows me a way to get through this, and so on and so forth. And he was crying, and he just held on to me. And it's a thankless job, ISOC, if I'm being honest. Alhamdulillah, it's probably a good thing because it can keep you sincere. But it's a very thankless job. Very rarely do you hear, well done, amazing job, anything like that. It's kind of, it reminds me of my nature of drive. It's like when someone does something or puts on an event, so they'll ask you about the next event before and in Islam, I think as Muslims we should ponder. Like something I was told by one of the ustads I chill with. He said to me, Anam, too many people just recite but they don't ponder for long enough. And I think sometimes we have that problem in this university. This talk, not that great, but the talks before, mashallah, like we've got people with so much knowledge. I remember I was performing poetry at one of our events, but forget my poetry. We had Ustad Yahya Rabi before me. What the hell? But anyway, he was speaking about the concept of Al-Ghafur, and the way he articulated it, I swear my heart is still, like, I'm still reverberating from that moment. And a lot of us have a lot of mercy in us, mashallah. But if someone wrongs you, and then they wrong you, and then they wrong you, no matter how much patience you have or mercy, eventually you're gonna turn away from that person, or most people would. And he spoke about the concept of the ever forgiven. That's it. Like no matter if you do it and then you sincerely repent, and that's what made me understand the beauty of guilt, because I was carrying so much guilt. And that talk and bringing Ustad Yahya Rabi, may Allah bless him, it brought me so much benefit, and I still think I'm still reflecting on that. But going back to OS, yeah, he basically was always making dua to Allah. Like, if I saw him in this prayer room, if I saw him when we used to pray in Howard, he's always the last one making dua. And he was so thankful. He's like, oh Anam, Allah's answered my du'as. The best thing I ever did was to join this ISOC and meet brothers like you. But for me, he's that reminder of the beauty of al-istiyana, of tawakkul. And for someone that's so harsh on himself about, I'm not good enough as a Muslim, he gave me one of the most important reminders that no matter how dark things are, you can always turn to Allah, and that should always be an option. And yeah, so effectively what I'm trying to say is that and hold fast, all of you together, to the rope of Allah, and be not divided amongst yourselves. We've got amazing facilities here. We've got prayer rooms on every single campus. We have brothers that are trying to put on the best events. Honestly, mashallah, the brothers now that are leading the ISOC, I think mashallah, they've taken it to the next level. For example, myself, I'm super busy. Like, I'm trying to manage this masters, I'm trying to get access to my children, I've got to deal with a broken family, and university itself is taking its toll. But these brothers are so active in making sure things are recorded, things are accessible to everyone. They're always thinking, how can we bring the most benefit to everyone? May Allah reward them. Knowing what it's like to be behind the doors, I'm sure they're struggling. I'm sure they feel the pressure. I'm sure they're struggling to balance their university with these things. And we as brothers and sisters, for anyone that watches, on their side, we should be there for one another. Brothers for brothers, and sisters should be there for other sisters. Like, the committee put a lot on their plate, and we should do our best to we all reap the rewards of the things that are being put on. So we should all try and put some effort towards these things, and show gratitude in our moments of joy and ease, and show patience in our times of hardship.